Although there was a lot of embarrassing play and bad decisions during the Packers game against the Lions, we are in no way embarrassed to be Packers fans. It's going to get fixed. In addition to talking about that game, the team is on its bye week. Then they'll have a pretty favorable game schedule, so things are looking up. Thanks for joining us on this edition of your Packers Fan Podcast.
I'm Scott Clark from the Gaming Outsider Podcast, and I haven't been this embarrassed of the Packers in a long time. That might have been the ugliest game I've seen in a while, and I'm shocked we didn't lose by more than 10. As much as I like to blame the weather, it's hard to argue against the fact that the Lions, a dome team, also had to play in the same conditions. I'm so glad the bye is next week, as it came at a really great time for Green Bay. Do you agree, sir?
I agree on this one, that is for sure. I'm Wayne Henderson, and this loss to the Lions actually hurt so bad that even seeing the Bears getting cremated by the Cardinals later in the day didn't really help me to feel much better. But this is episode 307 of the Packers Fan Podcast. Packers didn't have enough points when time ran out against the Lions. We're going to talk about that. And Packers fans, you sounded off. We share your listener feedback a little bit later in the episode.
We'll also talk about the upcoming bye week and some other stuff as well, but let's get right into the game. Even though it was a loss, I still want to mention the leaders for each position. First off in passing, Jordan Love at quarterback was 23 for 39 for 273 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, 3 fumbles, total passer rating of 69.7. It was not a good day for Mr. Love. On the rushing side, Josh Jacobs led the charge with 13 carries for 95 yards. Jaden Reed was the leading receiver, 5 catches for 113 yards, his longest being a 41-yard snag. And on defense, Quay Walker had 12 total tackles, 7 of them all on his lonesome. So still some positives there, some pretty good numbers. Let's talk about the game itself. The opening offensive drive, we had a personal foul called on Nixon for what?
Yeah.
Hurdling some coolers after he was pushed out of bounds. I could not see what that penalty was for. Did you?
No, I think that's just something that the refs missaw. And in fact, it looked to me like Nixon was actually pushed out of bounds.
Yeah.
So none of it should have been his fault. It was bonkers.
It was very crazy. We wound up going for it on 4th and a football length and converted on a crazy play where the ball was hiked directly to Kraft, who jumped over the line for a first down. That was a crazy play. I was not expecting to see the ball hike directly to a tight end, but that was cool. And then Christian Watson did find himself open on the sideline to convert on a 1st and 15 after a false start penalty from the play before. Came so close to converting on 3rd down inside the red zone, but wound up having to settle for a field goal. Still, Green Bay did draw first blood and led 3-0 after almost 8 minutes of offense. This was a very quick first half.
Yes, ball control, time of clock. We did our best in that respect. On our opening defensive drive, Detroit had a solid drive down the field, consistently converting on 3rd down. That is until 3rd and goal when the Packers stopped them at the 6-yard line, forcing a 4th down. So things were looking good. Detroit went for it on 4th down, drew an encroachment penalty against us, converted for a touchdown from 3 yards out. So Detroit takes their first lead 7-3, and I'm already thinking, stop with the penalties.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll get to that. But later on in the second quarter, in the first third of the second quarter, there was a very welcome sack by Rashawn Gary. He tackled Goff inside the 20-yard line, forcing a 3-and-out on this drive. Lions punted to Reed, who ran it back to the 32, but the Packers were given a holding penalty, pushing them back another 10 yards. So, started out as awesome. Always had that little stinger at the end. I did not like to see that.
Indeed. And then Enigbari had an 11-yard loss sack in the 4th. This was obviously too little too late in the game to actually save it. Still, it was cool to see him sniff out a double reverse, take the runner out for a huge loss, led to a 4th down punt. So even though it was too little too late, I was looking for positives, and that's one of them.
And speaking of positives, Wilson ran 1 for 6 toward the end of the game. There was less than 4 minutes left to play. It was pretty much worthless at this point, but it at least kept the score a little less embarrassing. They also converted the 2-point conversion to bring the score within 10 points. Lions led 24-14. Unfortunately, the onside kick wasn't even close to being successful. In fact, it went out of bounds for a penalty. What do you know? Another penalty, but it was still cool to see that touchdown by Wilson.
Yes. And then lowlights. Brian Branch hit a wicked one on Melton along the sideline. This was Detroit's first penalty of the game. It was a big one. It was straight up helmet to helmet. Brutal hit. Knocked his helmet off. And thankfully, Melton got up on his own accord. Seemed to be okay. I'm sure that he's in concussion protocol. Branch was ejected from the game as well. Was it deserved? I say yes, because he had a second unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, flipping off the crowd, giving Green Bay another 15 yards, and he was out of the game. And I was thinking, we're going to be able to take advantage of this.
Yeah, because he's huge on the secondary for Detroit. So I was like, I mean, I will never cheer for someone to get ejected, but in this case, we didn't know at the time that he had been flipping off the crowd. I think Megan actually posted a picture in our Facebook group of it happening. Like, just what an unclassy thing to do. I don't get it, because at the time I was like, man, why did he get ejected? It didn't look like an intentional
really
deal. I don't think he was like trying to, he was just trying to make a tackle, and it just, I think he deserved the penalty for unnecessary roughness, but it didn't seem like he was targeting the guy or anything like that. I was like, man, why the ejection? And then come to find out, it was what took place after the play that we didn't actually get to see on TV. Also, McManus got his first miss as a Packer kicker. He attempted a 46-yard field goal in the rain with winds threatening around 45 miles per hour. It's hard to be too upset with him on this one because of the conditions. Still, it's a bummer to see that streak broken already. This is one of those where I'm like, you should have gone for it. Like, why are we kicking in these conditions? Run the ball.
Run the ball was my title that I wanted for the entire game.
Yeah, why were we passing the ball so much? It is slippery. It is wet. Yeah, we're just going to keep throwing the ball. It makes no sense. We have a running team now, guys. We should be running the ball. It's like, that's just like football 101. When it's raining, you run the ball.
Yeah, because guess what? Love threw another pick six. It's beyond frustrating. He was under pressure, kind of lobbed it near the line. There wasn't a Packer in the vicinity aware of the ball being in the air. Simply a terrible decision that could have been avoided completely. Hell, take the sack before doing something like that. I think it was his second worst interception he's ever thrown, and I only rate it as the second worst because the defender did have to go a little bit further to score the touchdown for the pick six than that one that Jordan Love threw about a month ago that was on like the 2-yard line.
Yeah, and the woes continued. The Packers simply couldn't stop the Lions on 4th and 1 in the red zone. It couldn't have been a bigger hole for Gibbs to run through. He ran all the way to the end zone, and this gave the Lions a 24-3 lead at the time. It just, everything was just so painful. I was just hearing Lombardi in my head screaming his infamous phrase, and awful.
Yeah, and then there was one last piece of awful. The last-ditch effort in the fourth quarter, it failed. It's beyond frustrating. We had 4 flipping downs to get short yardage, and Love keeps trying to force plays, turn the ball over to the Lions inside, our red zone. So, it's one of those things. When you look at the stats, it didn't look as bad as like, wow, we could have actually have won that game, but we lost it ourselves. I don't even think the Lions really won it as much as we lost it. We just threw everything away.
I think that's a fair assessment. Unfortunately, when one team loses it, it still counts as a loss. It was not a great showing for the Packers, and you would think that these are the conditions. I mean, maybe snow was better for the Packers. It was gross. I was so glad I was not at this game. Oh man, it just looked awful to be there. But especially with the loss. But man, what was with the play calling? I just don't understand it at all.
Yeah, we need to just move on, reassess things, get healthy, get rested, get focused during the bye week, and go from there. So, getting the pulse of some of the listeners with our weekly poll question. Be sure to find it in our Facebook group at PackersCommunity.com, as well as on X at Packers Fan Pod. We post it shortly after the game wraps up each week. So this time around, which of these following items was the worst part of the Packers' loss. And I'm like, no, you can't choose all of the above. Please be frugal, people, and pick just one. Was it just the wrong game plan for windy and rainy conditions? Was it the penalties again? Was it the fact that Love was not playing at 100%? Or was it that the defense wasn't playing all that great either?
I mean, it's easy to blame the penalties. Obviously, that hurt us quite a bit, but I'm going to go with the wrong game plan. It was windy and rainy, and we kept passing the ball. This is a recipe for a running team to be doing what they're good at. We've proven that we've got a solid running team, and not just with Jacobs. We have done awesome things. That's why we lost the game, is because we kept relying on Love, who wasn't at 100% and just didn't make the right play calls. I'm going to stand to that. How about you?
Okay, and I feel the urge for people to pick all of the above because, it's all a factor. But if I had to pick just one, like I asked, I'm going to go with the fact that Love being out there on the field while not being 100%, especially when the second half came around. I'm like, we better be seeing some Malik Willis because Love is just not healthy enough to do this job.
I agree. I didn't I say it last week?
Yeah.
They shouldn't have put Love out on the field. It should have been Malik because who knows what would have happened. I'm not saying he would have won the game for us, but
maybe
I'd rather have a healthy quarterback against a division rival than one that's 75% or less. Especially with the decisions that he's making in the passing game, it was very, very frustrating to see.
And even if the decisions looked good on paper, he was not physically able to pull them off. So when you combine the votes on Facebook as well as on X, only 2% surprisingly voted for it being the wrong game plan for the windy and rainy conditions. Nobody voted for the defense not playing well. It was 31% for Love not playing at 100%, and 67% voted for the worst part of the game being the penalties again.
I'll say that the penalties are probably the most frustrating part of the game, but I don't think that's why we lost the game. So I understand why people chose it. We had some comments on the poll in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook group. First off, Ben Rabine said, I'll pick the Love option, but there was a lot of bad snaps in this game that certainly didn't help things. Dan Dowler also commented and said, I'm going to go with Love not being 100%. He shouldn't have started, and it was clear immediately as I saw him limping from the beginning. He's been making some very poor choices lately. The 2 pick sixes while under pressure are very troubling. Willis has proven to be a more than capable backup and should have started, especially in the weather we saw today. He's a better runner, and we have a great running back room in Jacobs, Wilson, and Brooks. The fact that Frenchie LaFleur chose to never even use Willis is beyond me. I couldn't have said it better myself, Dan. I agree 100%. And lastly, Royal X Storm on Twitter said, it will always be the penalties. You can't sit yourself in the door on every single damn drive. The only drive all games where we didn't get penalized or have stupid drops was the only drive we scored a touchdown on. It's kind of hard to argue with that. He makes a solid point there.
Indeed. And in addition to the poll question results, some of the other great conversations in the Facebook group this past week that I want to highlight. David Hawkins shared a classic photograph of Vince Lombardi from his playing days and said, did you know that Vince Lombardi could fly? Seriously, all official football photos should use this pose.
It was a pretty great picture. I've never seen that picture before.
Really? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't see it that often, but I have seen it, and I'm like, I think they had to capture it at just the right moment.
Also, Tyler Seaver on the community shared some breaking news that we traded Preston Smith today to the Steelers for a 7th-round draft pick. This is per Rob Demovsky. He says, after trading Preston Smith, 31, the Packers have just 2 players aged 30 or older, kicker Brandon McManus and linebacker Eric Wilson at 30.
So we're now an even younger team.
It's crazy to me how young this team is, but man, that one hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we hear Preston Smith's name called all the time. This one was kind of a bummer. However, Dan Dowler did add some interesting stats on here. Green Bay Packers trade of Preston Smith will create $2 million and change of 2024 salary cap space, close to $10 million of 2025 salary cap space, and over $18 million of 2026 salary cap space. So, we're looking at a total of over And then in 2027, over 1.6 million in salary cap space. So while it hurts, I see the potential why.
It's a numbers
looking down
game.
the road, looking for the future. Yep.
Yeah, we do need to look at the future, even though we're still going to win the Super Bowl this year. So stay tuned, Scott. Stay tuned. Remember, everybody, be part of the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community. Be part of those conversations at packerscommunity.com.
Packers fans, let your voice be heard and be part of the show. Do us a favor, record your 2 to 3 minute feedback on your phone or computer, and then email the recording to feedback@packersfanpodcast.com or by calling the PFP voicemail at +1 920 3PACK-GO. Please be sure to give us a call, and also your best Packers Bears takes. Deadline for your calls will be Monday at 6 p.m. Central Time. What is our first voicemail?
Evening, Wayne and Scott. Jared in Colorado, calling in on this not Victory Sunday. Don't have a lot of time. Just going to get right to it. If you would have told me that the Green Bay Packers would put up over 400 yards of offense against the Detroit Lions, I would have told you that they would win this game. They did not, unfortunately. They had over 273 passing yards, 138 rushing yards, 6.6 yards per play. I mean, what more can you ask for from your offense? They outdid the Lions in almost every metric. Not everyone, but almost everyone. But yeah, 411 yards of offense that the Green Bay Packers put up tonight. 261 yards is what the Detroit Lions put up. You know, on paper, if you were to look at that just alone, you'd think the Packers would have gotten the victory, but they didn't. Murphy's Law really messed with that. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and unfortunately, they went wrong, and every single crucial moment that it mattered, you had I believe it was 6 drop passes at the end of the day, which just really, really sucks because, Jordan Love, sure, maybe he could have put it in a little bit of a better spot, but every single one of those passes hit the hands of the receiver. And I'm of the firm believer that if the ball's hitting your hands as a receiver, you need to catch that. And sure, it's easy to blame the rain, but guess what? The Detroit Lions dealt with the same exact conditions, and they made it happen. So, really, really frustrating loss. You know, Jaden Reed, thankfully, as far as highlights go, Jaden Reed had a comeback game. He was kind of silent the last couple of weeks. He had over 100 yards 100 yards receiving, His average is 22.6, which is cool. Josh Jacobs, 95 yards rushing, which is great. So I'll leave it to you guys to highlight some of the other offensive highlights, which is nice, pun intended. Yeah, really tough loss. You know what, the Packers, they need to just put this behind them, take the bye week to regroup. More importantly, get some people healed up from injury. Obviously, Jordan Love being the big one. I am pretty annoyed with the Packers coaching staff on letting Jordan Love play tonight. I truly think they should have just benched him tonight and let Malik Willis start instead. They didn't, though, so woulda, coulda, shoulda. But Jordan Love, speaking of, once again, boneheaded decision-making. I don't know what it is that needs to happen. On one hand, it's easy to say that's, you can coach that out of a player, but at a certain point, I wouldn't be surprised if Tom Clements is telling Jordan Love to make smarter decisions with the football, and he's just not doing it. And so it's kind of frustrating, and it's reaching a point where I'm questioning whether can you really coach it out of someone, or is that just kind of who Jordan Love is, and he's thinks that he can get better at making those really risky throws and make it happen. So I don't know. Well, time will tell, obviously. Otherwise, looking forward to these next few weeks. Definitely got a tough stretch ahead of them. Hoping that the Packers can can have a repeat of last year where they lost against the Lions at home, but then on Thanksgiving just completely destroyed them. So that would be really, really fun to see if it happens. Other than that, I think this game is a microcosm of something that I've been worried about with this team kind of all season long, meaning that I do think the Packers have what it takes to make the playoffs, and I think they have what it takes to maybe get a win or two in the playoffs. What I am concerned about, though, is shooting themselves in the foot like they did tonight. No disrespect to the Lions. The Lions did what they're an amazing team. So any team that's amazing, if you make mistakes, they're going to capitalize on that, and that's what they did. That being said, I would argue the Packers did more to lose the game tonight than the Lions did to actually win it. And that's what I mean by this being a microcosm of a game of something I'm concerned about for the playoffs is We're the youngest team in the NFL, and it shows. There's a lot of penalties, a lot of really boneheaded, self-inflicted mistakes that only happen when you are a really, really young team. And I'm worried because the only way that really gets fixed, aside from coaching, is just time and experience. And it usually is time and experience over the course of a couple of seasons. Good example, the Detroit Lions. They were the youngest team in the NFL a couple of years ago. Really, really awesome team, explosive offense at times, but had some glaring issues. And it took them a couple of years to finally figure it out, and this is where they're at today. I'm not saying that it's going to take, that's going to happen. I would love to be proven wrong. It would be amazing to watch the Packers figure things out here in the last half of the season, make a run, and make it to the Super Bowl. And here's the thing. I think they have what it takes. The Packers have put enough on the field across a couple of games this season that if they can manage to put it all together, they can do it. The problem is doing it consistently. And I think that's what really kind of separates the good teams from the not so good teams, or at least the teams that don't quite make it all the way, is consistently doing the things you need to do every week. And time will tell. We'll see what the Packers have, what it takes to make that happen. So that's all I got today. Green and gold to dead and cold. I feel like I was all doom and gloom, but I'm really proud of the Packers for really kind of showing some grit and fighting through the end. Most teams, you would see them just kind of phone it in and just call it. And I appreciated the fact that the Packers, even though they were down by so much and the game was pretty much done, they were fighting to the end, trying their best to get in the end zone, save some clock, do the onside kick, all that. So I appreciated that. So we'll see what happens in a couple weeks. They got a tough stretch ahead of them. And yeah, hopefully we see them bounce back pretty quick. So love you guys. Hope you have a good night. Bye.
Thanks, Jared. Appreciate the call, as always. He makes some solid points. I didn't even know some of those numbers that he talked about, like with the number of yardage that we had, the time of possession and all that. It looked like it should have been a winning game for us, but sounds like he's just as frustrated with us as that Jordan Love was playing this game. I feel so up and down with Jordan Love. I've been saying since before he started even that, he's our guy. And I have faith in him. I just some of these decisions just don't make any sense. He has to understand that he's also young. He, just as young as the rest of the team, and he's got to make smarter decisions. It's sad to me that I feel more confident with our backup quarterback right now. I don't know if that's because of the injury or if that's because of the decisions, but the fact that the general consensus among Packers fans is that we should have started Malik Willis and given Love 3 weeks to rest makes more sense. Why aren't we making the decisions? You know what I mean?
Scott, I'm wondering if this is going to sound strange, but I'm wondering if it's Jordan Love refusing to be benched, or is it the coaching staff not just sucking up to the fact that he needs to be benched until he's healthy? I mean, once Jordan Love's 100% or even 90%, put him out there. He is our quarterback. I'm not saying bench him in favor of Malik Willis just because, but with Jordan Love and the injuries nagging, and they keep, they think they're getting better and then they get worse. And just let him get healthy, play Malik Willis. I don't know if it's Jordan Love or the coaching staff, but it is frustrating. Like Jared said, we've got to make it happen. Thank goodness the bye week is upon us. If anything's going to help sort this out and make it a non-issue, I think the bye week is it.
Yeah, it came at a definite opportune time for us. I will say that I love what he said about the rematch against Detroit. This is a team that going into it, I didn't really think we were gonna win, but after seeing them play them, I have faith that we could beat them the second time around. It is a doable task for us. It's not like out of the realm of possibility, even though the record is much better. We can beat the Lions. We need some more things to go in our favor, penalties and a healthy quarterback. So I'm proud of the team as well, despite the loss, and I'm looking forward to the future.
And it's coming our way pretty soon. That's for sure. Let's see who gave us a call at +1 9203 Pack Go.
Wayne Scott, Orange Green, Texas. Not a good Monday morning at work with all this smack talkers. And of all people, Cowboy fans. So anyways, what a sloppy game. Such a sloppy game by the Packers. You'd figure, one would think that the Lions are the ones that would be used to playing in that kind of weather, but it was, that's what it seemed like. Like, I can't believe so many drops, and not a lot of penalties, like 10 or 11 penalties. It's like that game could have been a lot closer, or maybe even beat the Lions. But we shot ourselves in the foot. I don't know what's going on with Jordan Love. Like, his quarterback's coach, they need to teach him to, hey, if the play's not there, throw it away. Like, out of bounds. Not try to throw it inbound out of desperation. And he could have had a second costly turnover. But, I don't know. I still have hope, of course, that they'll beat the Lions in Detroit, indoors, where it's climate controlled. I just think that the Packers offense is more reliable in the pass game than running game. They do run the ball a lot, of course, but not compared to the Lions having two workhorses. I think the weather greatly affected the Packers. I hope moving forward that it's not going to be a problem playing in that kind of weather, because, you're in Green Bay and the weather's going to be like that this time of the year. So I hope they step it up or practice practice outdoors. I know it's, tough weather, but yeah, I still have hope. We can beat these teams. Like, if we can beat the Vikings, we can beat the Lions. It's just a matter of, discipline. But, all in all, green and gold till I'm dead and cold. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go indeed, Art. Thanks for giving us a call from the great state of Texas. Not a happy Monday at work after such a sloppy game. And yes, the dropped passes, Scott, the dropped passes.
Yeah, what do you expect when it's raining that much? That's why we wanted to run the ball, right? So you're not having to worry about drop passes. It's just, who do you fault? Do you fault the players for not being able to catch a slippery ball? Do you fault the center for not being able to snap it to Love correctly? No, it boils down to the decisions. Granted, the Lions probably knew that the running game was the way to go, and they were trying to use the element of surprise or whatever, but it didn't pay off. So very frustrating.
Indeed it was. And yeah, you're right. The ball's wet. The whole game plan should have been run. I think sometime shortly after the beginning of the second half, I posted in the Facebook group, I don't want to see that ball in the air again. Run, no matter what. Run, period. They didn't listen. Art is hoping the Packers don't become one of those teams that plays poorly in bad weather outdoors, because, we have the mystique, the Lambeau mystique, the Green Bay mystique. We play in cold, we play in mud, we play in wet, and we play well. So, yeah, we don't want to become one of those teams, but I do think there's a good chance we can beat the Lions in the rematch game. I guess, like Jared said earlier in his voice message, that, the first game last year, the game at Lambeau, and there were too many Lions fans in the crowd as well, but we lost to the Lions. But apparently the second game in Detroit, we turned it around. So let's do that again. And let's see who else sent us a message to feedback@PackersFanPodcast.com.
Go. No, Pack, no. What was that garbage we just saw? Talk about a misery Monday. It just seemed like absolutely nothing was going right. Total lack of discipline with the 10 penalties. That turnover that Love had that turned into a pick six. I don't know what he was even thinking. That it looked like he was trying to shot put a football. Wrong sport there, Haas. And our receivers, did they have? I know it was raining, but did they also put butter on their fingers? They had 7 drops. The Lions were playing in the same weather that we were, and at one point, Goff had only 4 incompletions, and I know for sure a couple of those were throwaways. I saw a stat at one point that Love had 13 incompletions, and 6 of those were dropped. And 2 of those drops were absolute touchdowns. And you have Christian Watson pulling up on a route, causing the ball to sail past him, which likely would have also resulted in a touchdown because it looked like he had nothing but green in front of him. Kraft drops an easy ball that which would have been turned into a first down. That was on the series that Brian Branch got ejected from the game. You know, that one guy alone gifted us 30 yards. And what did we come up with it? Nothing. A nothing burger. And then you had the problems coming back to the center, the exchange between Elton Jenkins and Love. There was at least 3 snaps that I saw that were basically fumbled and recovered by us. I mean, I know Elton Jenkins was moving over from his original starting position due to the injury to Josh Myers. And then, you know, you also got to think about the fact that Love and Jenkins, they had no reps together this week in practice to build a chemistry because Love didn't practice in full at all. And then you're also, you know, without your top defensive backs in Evan Williams and Jaire Alexander due to injury. But, you know, even those injuries, you know, next man up. And you got to clean up the mistakes. And to me, when you have all those mistakes, that comes down to coaching, and that falls at the feet of the coaching staff and Matt LaFleur. And we keep seeing it time and time again. And I think it was one of Scott's keys to a Packer victory was to, you know, reduce the penalties. This was the 5th game with at least 7 penalties. And in this game, we had 10 penalties. And against a team like the Detroit Lions, who are the class of the NFC, sorry to say it, but you can't make those kind of mistakes. You know, we should be the class of the NFC, but we keep on making these young team mistakes, the penalties, the drops, running the wrong routes, and all that kind of stuff. If they could just clean it up, the sky's the limit, and we'd be looking like Kansas City. You know, and back to coaching, why was Josh Jacobs only running the ball for 13 times after he had 95 yards? I think he had 95 yards just in the first half, or something close to that. There's no reason to be, I mean, that was another, good job, Scott. That was another key to Packers victory. You know, run the ball. Did pretty good in the first half and then completely abandoned it because they were down by 2 touchdowns. That just doesn't pass the common sense test. 2 touchdowns ain't nothing in the NFL these days. That can be made up easily in within, you know, 2 or 3 drives. You know, but hopefully they can clean all this stuff up. We're going into the bye week. I'm not sure if this is considered a double Bears week since there's, you know, the Bears are our next opponent. But I hope this team really thinks about what they've been doing. I hope the coaching staff's really tightens the screws down on these guys because with this indiscipline, we are not going to be able to go very deep in the playoffs if they continue to do the things that they've been doing. But as we saw what happened last year, the last half of the season, they really tightened those screws down and they made a run. And we got within 2 games of the Super Bowl, and that's pretty awesome. What else is awesome is the PFP Fantasy Football League. A little update there since we got going into the bye week. We got a 3-way tie between myself, Victoria's Secret, the Executioner, and some guy, the World Wager of Fun champion and next PFP Fantasy Football champion. I'm not sure who this guy is. I don't know. He must have snuck in here somehow. Anyways, hope everybody's having a good week and everybody got out there and voted today. Do your thing. No matter who you voted for, I hope you voted. Go, 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 heck, go!
Go, Pack, go indeed. Dan, as always, thanks for the call. Yeah, lots to talk about here. 3 fumbled snaps. It's rare to see 1 or 2 of those in the game, but 3?
Right?
You know, it's just crazy. 7 penalties in 1 game. That's 5 games out of this season with that. It's just absolutely nuts to me. I mean, it's hard not to expect it with a team this young, right? That's what happens with it. And we've gotten younger now that Preston Smith is gone. And I'm glad Dan feels like I do. 13 carries in a rain-soaked game. That's it? What is going on? I just can't even. Yeah, all we can hope for is more focus in the second half of the season because we really desperately need it.
Yeah, last year, like Dan mentioned, and thanks for the message, Dan, he phrased it as tightening the screws. And it really did seem to help because I think this year or last year at this time, we were 3-6. We're 6-3, much better spot, and we can just roll in the second half of the season. And the season, the schedule, especially the first 4 or 5 games after the bye, look very favorable. The Lions game could be a tough one based on past results, that's for sure. So we shall see what happens. Get rest, Packers. Get focused and get ready.
Moving on, we got some emails. Got 3 of them this week. First one comes from James in Montana. He says, "Go Pack Go. Extremely frustrating loss to a divisional rival who were begging to be beat. St. Brown from the Lions showed up to the stadium wearing a Green Bay Sucks sweater. Guess we'll have to make him pay another week. The game was completely winnable, but the self-inflicted wounds were too hard to overcome. Too many drop passes, bad snaps, and penalties. The game wasn't as bad as the score seems to indicate. The mistakes compounded into a perfect storm. The Lions are a good football team, and the Packers were missing a lot of important pieces. Our starting center being out killed at least 2 drives with at least 3 to 4 noticeably bad snaps. The dropped passes also killed a few drives and took a touchdown off the board for us. The team will improve as the season progresses. The bye week will hopefully help our team get healthy. The Lions are peaking right now in October and November. I'd rather peak going into the playoffs." I like that. On to the bye week and then the Bears. Go Pack Go, James from Montana. Thanks so much, James. Appreciate the insight there.
Absolutely. And we got an email from Ginger from SoCal. "Hey, Wayne and Scott, that was a rough one to watch. It was a sloppy game all around. Once again, penalties are hurting us. Maybe paying players for incentives and goals for the season, perhaps financial motivation for less penalties will get these guys going because nothing else seems to be working in that regard. I also find it curious how our defense gives up most of the points in the first half and then quiets these teams in the second half. Usually defenses tire in the second half, but ours seems to pick it up. It happened with both the Vikings and the Lions. We gave up 17 in the first half and only 7 in the second half. Maybe LaFleur needs to give the pregame speech as if it's halftime already. We keep beating ourselves, and this is frustrating. We can hang with any team in the league. We just need to bring it every game. I think we're ready for the bye. Go Pack Go, Ginger in SoCal." Thank you so much, Ginger. Excellent points.
Mm-hmm. We also got an email from Megan, I assume because her voice is gone from shouting angrily at her TV this week. But she says, "Womp womp. I was realistically optimistic about this game, didn't want to get blown out, and despite the score, feel like we got blown out. We were essentially handed 30 yards in a silver platter with a branch penalty and got 0 points. Need to capitalize on stuff like that." And she wrote this in all caps. "Too many penalties. Is this week 1 or what?"
Yes.
She goes on to say, "Feel like we should have utilized Malik more. It's not like he hasn't proven himself, but it seems like we'd rather use a visibly injured Love than work Malik in to give Jordan some reprieve. It was perfect run the ball weather anyways. Who makes these decisions? Too many drops. I know the conditions didn't help, but we were at home and we are used to sloppy weather, not focused enough. Props to Jacobs, who always looks like a beast with the ball in his hands. 261 to 411 in terms of yards, and we were on the better end of pretty much every stat line. No wonder they say Goff is so efficient. We had more yards and couldn't be efficient in any way. Had we not missed the field goal, Watson not undercut that route that could have been a touchdown, Wicks secured the ball, we'd easily have a tie game or a Packer win. We did it to ourselves, to be honest. I feel like there isn't a whole lot to say because we didn't do a whole lot, if I'm being honest. And you know, guys, I'm an eternal optimist when it comes to the Packers. Let's rest up during the bye week, and as always, I say get back to the basics because we have been lacking in that department, and it's games like this that will come back to haunt us. As always, I bleed green and gold till I'm dead and cold. Through thick and thin, go Pack Go, baby!
Oh, yeah. Go Pack Go, Megan. Thank you very much for the email. And actually, she sent in the email because she said she wouldn't get off work in time to compose and send in a voice feedback. I think her voice is probably fine, but we don't know for sure. But Scott,
just making an assumption.
Well, it's a solid assumption. I want to know, how are we doing on the season wager of fun in both mine and yours battle, but also with the listeners? What is happening now?
Well, you and I both chose differently this week. I actually chose a Detroit victory, 24-20. You chose a Green Bay victory, 23-21. So the differential didn't make a whole lot of difference this week. I got one in the win column this week, so I no longer have a goose egg. It only took me halfway through the season to score a point.
And then again, pulling in a victory based on the backs of a Packers loss. But you do what you got to do.
Hey. It's not like I was cheering for it, man. I was being a realist.
I understand.
On the PFP listener section for this past Sunday's game, it looks like the big winner is Brett Connor. He chose a differential, a score of 24-21 in favor of Detroit, which had a total differential of 7 points. So that gives him another one in the win column. And that actually extends his lead. He now has 3 wins over this season. So he's firmly in first place, followed by a 4-way tie for second place between David Newman, Jay Walters, Garrett Stritzel, and Dan Dialer, each of them with 1 win. So Brett Connor taking a commanding lead.
Well done, Brett. Taking care of business. And yeah, we're close to the midway point. We got to figure out what our wages are going to be in the wager of fun, but maybe we'll think of something on the bye week. But
we still got to play Madden.
I know. I still got to make it out to Illinois and bring my Henderson jersey for you to wear, and we'll go to Culver's. We got a lot of things. We could take care of all these things in one day, maybe. If we could.
There you go.
So the NFC North, the dang Lions, they're 7-1. The Vikings are 6-2 because, man, they were so close to getting beat. And the Packers are 6-3. The Bears are 4-4. Sorry, Bears, you're falling apart right on schedule. So we're in third place in the division. But even so, looking at the early playoff picture, we are still like about 2 games ahead of everybody else for the number 7 wild card spot. So if the playoffs were to begin today, we would be in. And so basically in the spot that we're in, it's this simple, Scott. Win all of the rest of our games and we'll be raising the Lombardi Trophy, and it's going to be beautiful.
I love that's your key to victory. Just win the games. Just all of them from here on out. No sweat. That's all you got to do.
Hey, looking at the schedule, it's not impossible, that's for sure. So we'll see how it goes during the bye week and after the bye week. Something else that jumped out at me, it kind of Bears related. You know how the Cardinals, they play in a stadium with a retractable roof in Arizona because sometimes it gets really, really, really hot? Mm-hmm. Well, during the Bears-Cardinals game, the game was actually impacted in the second quarter by a bit of a hailstorm. And did I mention that they have a retractable roof that could have kept the weather out?
Wow.
So the Bears, they bring it with them wherever they go. Oh, so this is the Week 10 bye week. And in addition to your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers being on their bye week, also are the Cleveland Browns, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Seattle Seahawks. So adjust your fantasy teams accordingly. I am part of the 3-way tie. And I'm going to break that tie this week. I'm going to be moving on up.
I love it, man. I'm not doing so well. I lost all 4 of my fantasy games this week.
Ouch!
It's kind of ridiculous, but what you going to do? Well, in brighter news, my other podcast, The Gaming Outsider, has a new episode out this Thursday where we do our monthly tradition of answering questions from our community. It's one of my favorite things that we do over there. I also played a new digital pinball game, Wayne. I thought you might be interested.
Yes.
With an 80s slasher movie theme. It's a really great little table. One of these days, I'm going to get you on Pinball FX, and you're gonna love it. We also talked about a ton of other new games. You can hear my show the same places you listen to this one, and you can find our website at thegamingoutsider.com, where we published our 100th review today, actually, as of this recording. We are over 100 reviews, so it feels pretty awesome.
That is awesome. And Pinball FX, I need to double check. I went to go download it the other day. I don't know if they changed their name or got bought out, but I couldn't find it in the App Store. So I'm going to have to check
We'll
further.
talk after we're done recording, because I'll hook you up.
All right, hook me up, because we're going to take care of business and get the flip on. Your support of the podcast through Patreon is invaluable. We really appreciate it. And with that being said, Jay Walters, go Pack Go, and thank you for your Bart Star patronage. And Dan Dyler, thanks, and go Pack Go for your Jordan Love level support. Much appreciated, man.
Go Pack Goes and thank yous for our Brett Favre level pledges, Megan Miguel Ramirez from the Opposites Track podcast, and Scott Boers. And our Lambo-inspired supporters get their thanks and Go Pack Goes as well. Hank Davis from the TPE Network, Brett Connor, and Joe Christensen. If you're also interested in joining in, all the details are at packersfanpodcast.com/give back. As always, the Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast is not affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. Do us a favor. Tell a friend about the show. It is our best source of getting the word out there. We would really love it if you did.
And we invite you to follow us on X at Packers Fan Pod. Follow Scott at GoCast Scott. Follow his Gaming Outsider podcast at The GoCast. Follow me at Wayne Henderson. And now, here's our PFP community members, Andre in LA, Megan, Joe Christensen, and Dan Dyler to help kick off the bye week.
Go Pack, go!
Go Pack, go!
Go Pack, go! Go, 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 go!